Friends, the disturbance in the Western Caribbean has gotten more organized today, and there is the opportunity to get a named storm in the next couple of days. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather, and it's fantastic to see you on a Friday. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in the video, our disturbance in the Northwest Caribbean more organized today. We'll talk about the impacts this is going to bring and how, as we go over the weekend, there is the opportunity that we could get the second named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. We have other impactful weather to talk about for the weekend as well. Another tropical wave moving into the Eastern Caribbean, and we'll take a look at the tropical outlook, which does look to be a little bit busier into the first week of July. As we get started, Meteo Mundo, sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, offering free consultation and policy reviews. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. A storm impacts your area, you get damage. Go to leanonmelaw.com. As always, I want to hear from the Meteo Mundo weather community. Let me know what's been happening in your area, what the weather has been like. This is the surface analysis, our tropical wave, the axis in Central America. So our disturbance developing on the north side of that, but there's just rich, ample tropical moisture in the Western Caribbean as a whole. There's the next tropical wave that'll be moving into the Lesser Antilles in the latter portions of the weekend. We'll highlight that. Kind of in between, we do have a Saharan air layer with a little bit drier air, big ridge of high pressure over the Western Atlantic, but still some stormy conditions on this Friday in portions of the Bahamas. Obviously, we'll get started with what's happening here in the Northwest Caribbean. If you joined me for yesterday's video, this was looking better in the form of deeper convection. Well, off of that deeper shower and thunderstorm activity, we're beginning to get more of a broad low-level center. If you look up here, you can actually see some of those outflow bands beginning to develop. And not only do we have, a disturbance, we actually have our second invest area of the Atlantic season. So the Hurricane Center has ratcheted this up a little bit in the last 24 hours. So we have Invest 91L. The center is actually over the southern Yucatan, but it's a very broad center, and some of that is actually into the Western Caribbean. Winds 30 miles an hour, and again, it is forecast to move west and into the Southwest Gulf over the weekend, where we have our yellow area. Now a 30% chance of potential tropical development, either a tropical storm a tropical depression and or tropical storm. Barry is the second named storm of the Atlantic season, and that's what we would potentially get here in the Southwest Gulf. Now look, regardless, this is going to be a very wet, stormy, windy forecast for this area through the weekend ahead. The numbers that you see are wind gusts in miles an hour. And again, this is a wide swath of deep tropical moisture. Let's take a look at a couple of different things I can bring on for you guys. These are going to be your low-level winds. Okay, so what we'd be looking at here, is there any big twist to these winds? Well, if you look up just north of the Cancun area, you'll start to see a little bit of a bend and an overall broader twist into the far Southwest Gulf as well. So we are beginning to see at the lower levels, and these are surface winds, there being a little bit more of a twist here. Very interesting to see in the Campeche area here. You'll start to see your winds turn more out of the north. Same thing for Merida. So again, a little bit broader turn here, southern sides of the Yucatan. Very, very fresh easterlies here. So look, it's going to get wet and stormy. Cancun and Cozumel, down towards the Tulum area, San Pedro, Chetumal as well, Belize City, the Bay Islands. Enough rain where there's an opportunity for some flooding. We've got to also highlight that as well. There is an excessive rain watch for Belize already. But again, throughout the Yucatan, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, even Nicaragua, we've got to watch out for excessive rainfall in the coming days. Again, check in with the local government, but if we're talking about terrain areas, landslides and mudslides are a possibility. If we're talking about urban areas, street flooding, localized low-level flooding, and some coastal flooding is possible across the Caribbean coastline as well. So again, a lot of impactful weather expected out of this. This will probably still bring some rain even towards the Cayman Islands and the western sides of Cuba as well. But this is going to continue to march off towards the west. And you can see some of that deeper convection today beginning to spiral into the Yucatan. A couple of different ways we could look at this. I'm going to bring on the visible satellite imagery. If you look at these brighter whites, those are your higher cloud tops. And again, near where we have that L, where the center of the invest is, you can see a blow up of thunderstorms there, but south of here, there is ample moisture from the axis of that tropical wave that is still streaming in. So, you know, these winds, 30, 35, 40 miles an hour. And this buoy, by the way, these are wind gusts in miles an hour. This buoy already had a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust earlier today. So, you know, that is tropical storm force wind gusts at the present time. The biggest question is just going to be, can we wrap this up into a low-level center? So, again, this is our what we call sandwich, the enhanced satellite imagery and the visible satellite imagery together. It gives you an idea of kind of, you know, some of the deeper convection with that visible satellite imagery in it. You can see, again, some of that spiraling features here. We're already getting a few thunderstorms developing in the far southwest Gulf. So it's a very interesting couple of days ahead for this area. And again, Cancun, Cozumel, wet stormy weekend, Belize City, Utila, Roatan, Guanaja, San Pedro Sula, Campeche areas. Again, stormy, active conditions. I'll be monitoring the situation, but potentially down the road here, Saturday, Sunday, maybe early Monday, in this area in yellow, we get the second named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, or we get just a tropical depression and a heck of a lot of rain and wind throughout this area. So I'll talk about the models and show you kind of how that's going to break down in the models coming up in just a second. Let's get back into the other stories that are happening across the area on this Friday. We'll get back into the northwest side of the Bahamas. This has been a very active weather here in the last several days. Thunderstorms are developing right now off of the kind of southeast side of Florida and actually working their way back off towards the east. Now, I don't expect this trend to continue most of Friday. As we get into the very later parts of the day, these storms should probably stop and actually start to build back west because the east coast sea breeze from Florida is going to be a little bit more potent than anything else. But can we see a few thunderstorms in the Walker's Key, Grand Bahama area? Absolutely. The Abacos will be included in that. At least a couple of passing showers, an isolated storm down towards Bimini. It's going to be more isolated in general when you get farther off to the south, Andros, New Providence, Eleuthera, Cat Island. Spotty showers here, but there's also a little bit of haze trying to get back in as our Saharan air layer is working its way farther to the north and to the west. Certainly the activity has come down in these spots. Now, if you're new to Meteo Mundo or if you haven't tuned in a little bit, we now have live cameras in the Caribbean, and I am very happy to show you those. On this Friday afternoon, this is a live look to central Eleuthera in the Bahamas. And again, relatively overcast skies. Bit of a breeze there. You can see the palm trees dancing with some of that wind out there as well. Again, a passing shower in Eleuthera is not out of the question, but there's also a bit of haze in the sky, as you can see from that. Same situation in Long Island. Again, in the Bahamas, beautiful shot here as well. Bit of a breeze, not as strong in Eleuthera at the hour. And again, a deck of mid and high level clouds and a little bit of haze in the sky in the Long Island, Bahamas area. And generally speaking, we are going to be drying out in these spots as we go through the weekend, at least in the shorter term. Once again, heavier showers and a few thunderstorms are possible in the western sides of Cuba. Some extra cloud coverage, if nothing else, over the Cayman Islands in association with this tropical disturbance. But again, it is pulling off to the west, so a drying trend overall. This is beginning to dry out in Jamaica. Talked about in yesterday's video as well that I did expect us to see, temperatures go up as the rainfall forecast comes down. Now, there's still a lot of wind. We still have our large wave and strong wind advisory for all the coastal waters of Jamaica and the southern offshore waters, including Pedro and Morant Bay. Got up to 91 so far today in Montego Bay, right around 90 in Kingston. That's 32 degrees Celsius. A few widely scattered showers and a rumble of thunder possible on this Friday. But again, we're starting to see the air dry out a bit. If I show you guys the water vapor imagery, all right, this is the water vapor imagery. Green is your moisture-laden air. Red is drier air. Now, the thickest dust is still coming into the forecast here, but at least at the mid-levels of the atmosphere, when I show you guys the low and mid-levels of the atmosphere, you're going to see there's just a little bit drier air that is kind of nudging back in here, all right? And that's part of that Saharan air layer, which is going to ultimately lower the rain chance a bit. Now, as that happens, it gets hot. Port-au-Prince, before we had a couple of showers try and move in, actually hit 97, but they've dropped back down to 90. Also noting a little isolated shower and storm near the Santo Domingo area. Watch that pop on with a little bit of lightning right over downtown Santo Domingo. But otherwise, it's been a relatively quiet day across Hispaniola, and that's what I expect to continue in the coming days. Same situation for the Southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos as well. Bit of a breeze still outside here in Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Again, Aguadilla, San Juan, 35-mile-an-hour gusts for today, not much less in St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John. So the biggest story here is going to be the wind, the elevated surf and sea conditions, but put a little pin in that, we actually have a good chance for some rain in these areas for part of the weekend, and I'll highlight that coming up in just a second. I'm going to switch over to the visible satellite imagery here, and you can see our fresh easterly trades. Look how fast these low-level clouds are whipping in across the area right now. Bit of a breeze, but not as bad. Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart's for today, Ceiba, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbuda, Antigua, Montserrat. It's been a fairly fine forecast on this Friday. Temperatures have been pleasant. Still have some elevated sea conditions, 2 to 3 meter heights, 6 to 9 feet in a couple of spots. A little bit of extra cloud coverage back down towards Guadalupe, Dominica, Martinique, and St. Lucia. We have had a 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts in St. Lucia for today. A few passing showers here, but mainly dry. Let's go to our next live camera. Current St. Lucia, western side of the island. Again, bit of Saharan dust in the area, bit of haze. You can clearly see that again, even though the sun is out. There's just kind of a murky, hazy sunlight out there for us right now. Few spotty showers are possible, but many dry hours and locations in St. Lucia for today. And again, beautiful there along the coast. Very jealous of all of our friends there. Barbados, marine advisories are up at this point in time for some of the, again, breezy winds, especially on the eastern sides of the islands. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, again, an isolated shower is possible here, but not a lot. Trinidad and Tobago, especially down towards Trinidad, we could get a couple of showers beginning to develop here at the present time. Next tropical wave is on board. This one, again, is going to lift farther north and west in latitude, so it's going to impact more of the Lesser Antilles and into the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico in the coming days. And again, extra cloud coverage and a couple of showers here for my friends in TNT. Nueva Esparta could also get a couple of showers later today as well. ABC Islands, not as much wind for today. Beautiful forecast. Live look outside there. Orania, Aruba. Oh man, come on, jump on one of those. Is that a big tube, or is that a secondary smaller boat just trailing on the first one's wake? I guess it's a smaller boat. I was like, that would be an awesome inner tube to be on. What a fantastic shot here from Oranjestad. Still a bit of a breeze. You can see that in a little bit of haze, not as much in the way of an opportunity for some rain today, but for my friends in the ABC Islands, rain chances will be going up starting for tomorrow. Again, I love this shot. It pans for us, gives us a great idea of what's happening in Aruba. Friends, if you get anything out of these videos, if you wouldn't mind taking a quick second, hitting that like button for me right now. It supports the channel more than you think. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you want the daily forecast, come join our fantastic Meteo Mundo weather community by hitting that subscribe button right now. I appreciate those who find other ways to support me at the channel. One of those ways is to become a member. 2 tiers for 99 cents a month. You become a supporter. You get custom badges and emojis when we do live streams. I shout you guys out. If you want to kick it up a notch, our new tier is called Team MM. In addition to all the things you get as a supporter, you get exclusive member shorts. I grab my phone. I give you guys updates in between the videos, kind of my thoughts, the behind the scenes looks, just anything to do with what's happening around our area. I put on those shorts. Thanks for those who are Team MM members. Again, the dust is going to be an issue. Look, it's relatively thick right now in portions of Jamaica and Cuba, and will be spiraling into the Bahamas in the shorter term. Then a secondary plume will come in behind that early next week. It will impact the Virgin Islands and portions of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola as well. But you can clearly see that Sahara dust spiraling up. The brighter colors are the thicker areas. Obviously, that won't be impacting Central America anytime soon. In the secondary area that'll be coming in next week will not be as concentrated. I'm going to take a quick sip here, a little bit of tea, do a lot of talking these days. All right, let's get into the forecast. So again, obviously, first things first, we're going to deal with what's going to be happening here in the coming days, and then we're going to go island by island. Once again, excessive rainfall is my biggest concern, but obviously, potentially, some impactful winds could be coming out of this. All of the Yucatan, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador as well, San Salvador area there. By the way, I haven't even mentioned it. They still have an invest here in the East Pacific. That's likely to become the 6th named storm, Flossie, for them. So is it going to be Flossie and or Barry? Well, that's a situation for both to acknowledge. I would say this, Flossie has a better chance of developing than Barry does, but again, there's going to be a lot of wind and rain in those areas that we've been talking about. All right, so what does it look like on the GFS model, okay? First of all, you're just going to see a heck of a lot of green on this map, regardless. So get prepared for gusty winds, heavy rainfall in these areas. If we're going to develop this spot, it's going to probably have to happen Sunday or Monday, because what happens after that is that more than likely that core goes back inland over Mexico and or hugs the coastline and could even bring some heavier rain into South Texas into early next week. So if you're viewing from South Texas, you know, potentially there could be some heavier rain on the board for you as this kind of just slides up. But the biggest question is, does the actual core get far enough offshore and out into the open waters of the very warm Southwest Gulf of Mexico? It can absolutely support tropical development, the Southwest Gulf can. So, you know, again, that's all it's going to take. You get the center out into the exposed waters, you're good to go as far as getting development. We don't want to see it, but that's what would happen. If the core stays hugging land, more than likely we're not going to get development. Again, appreciably, how much of a difference am I expecting? Probably not a lot, really. You know, what I mean by that is there going to be a lot of a difference between whether this thing develops into a depression or a storm, or whether it just stays an elongated disturbance? Generally speaking, to what those who live in these areas would see, there's not going to be a heck of a lot of difference. I'm going to take away this 5-day area so we can clearly see it. It's actually a 7-day area now. But when you see the whites, those are your stronger winds. What we want to see is there a little bit of a twist here? Is there a little bit of a donut hole where we would have a low-level center? Well, let's take a look on the GFS model here. First of all, that's a lot of wind over Cancun and Cozumel later tonight and into tomorrow. Then we start to freshen this up a little bit here in the Southwest Gulf. Again, strong right along the coastline. Does it get into anything more than that? This might be our best chance right here, okay? But the wind fields associated with it are relatively weak, right? So we have a little donut hole there, but if we query the winds around it, here in the GFS model, these are not supportive enough to get ourselves a tropical depression. What's interesting thing, if I back this up here towards the Yucatan, the northern side, these winds would be supportive of a tropical depression. So again, Cancun, Cozumel, Merida areas, 35, 40-mile-an-hour winds are possible as this core comes through. It's the same situation for coastal Belize and portions of the Bay Islands. Roatan, Guanaja, Utila, watch out for the wind. Why am I mentioning this so many times? This might be the area we get a depression to form. This might be the area that actually has the strongest winds, because this is a guarantee. This is a guarantee to get 30 to 40 mile-an-hour winds here. Could end up being stronger, but less of a chance for that to actually happen here. And again, it gets into northern Mexico relatively quickly. Now you can already see that the GFS model just south of Acapulco develops Flossie. And that one's a much tighter, stronger storm. Small storm, tiny little storm, but potentially could be tropical storm and or hurricane down the road. All right, so I'm gonna go back over to the reflectivity product here, loop this back up, and we'll get into the rest of the forecast. And then we're gonna deep dive into the early part of July, because I think there's a couple more things that we gotta talk about by then as well. We'll start here, back with our next tropical wave. Now, as mentioned in yesterday's video as well, this tropical wave is moving farther north in latitude. The last couple of waves have really just impacted the Windward Islands in general, but now you see places like Martinique and Dominica on over towards Guadeloupe and Montserrat with some healthy rainfall chances coming up. So we're gonna get passing showers here for TNT and Nueva Esparta and Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados as well. Best chance is gonna be Saturday, okay? Best chance Saturday into Sunday, and then rain chances falling back off after that. Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, even a higher chance, especially St. Lucia as well. St. Lucia north towards Guadeloupe, good solid rainfall chances over the weekend, very fresh winds. 30 to 35 mile-an-hour winds will be accompanying with this kicking up and elevating the sea conditions as well. Better rain chances will also come back into the forecast for Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Bart, St. Martin, and Anguilla, but these are still going to be fast-moving showers. Better moisture concentration, we're going to get a better opportunity for some rain, but these things are going to be whipping across the area. Now, you can clearly see on the GFS model something we have to talk about here for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. As we get into tomorrow, Saturday, still relatively dry, but look what happens on Sunday. Now we get the axis of this tropical wave to move farther to the north. So for Anegada and Jost Van Dyke and Roadtown Tortola, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, and all of Puerto Rico, Vieques and Culebra included, now the rain chances go from like a 20 to a 30% chance tomorrow to a 70% chance by the end of the weekend. Nice moisture-laden air. Guess what? That moves over the Dominican Republic and portions of Haiti as well, and might even clip portions of Turks and Caicos. So that's a nice little plume of tropical moisture coming in to just amp up the rain chances to go along with some fresh breezes in the areas that I've just mentioned. You get farther west than that, we're still back into a more isolated forecast. Not expecting a ton of rain over Jamaica the next couple of days. More isolated showers in the morning, a few widely scattered showers and storms island-wide. At this point in time, I'm not favoring one area over the other. Potentially in the morning, it could be the southern parishes with a slightly better chance. Kingston, Portmore, Spanish Town could be included in that. But again, am I saying, hey, there's one spot that's going to get a lot of rain? Absolutely not. We're drying out as that tropical disturbance moves away. Same situation for the Cayman Islands. The Bahamas will also begin to dry out a bit as well. Southern sides could see a little bit of that moisture. So the Acklins, the Mayaguana area, Inagua, better chances for a few showers there compared to Freeport and Lucaya there on Grand Bahama. The ABC Islands should start to see better rain chances starting tomorrow. Not a ton, but I do expect there to be some wind-driven showers across Bonaire, Curacao, and Aruba Saturday and Sunday. So this is what it looks like island by island. Northwest Bahamas, central and southeast Bahamas, very limited rain chances. Slightly higher Turks and Caicos Sunday and Monday. Cuba's rain chances are spotty in nature, slightly better on the western side of the island. Cayman Islands, again, same situation. Still a decent chance for a few showers tomorrow, and then probably pulling out to an isolated variety Sunday and Monday. It's a wet, it's a stormy forecast for Belize City and all of the Yucatan, including Cozumel and Cancun. 100% chance for showers and storms tomorrow. Still elevated Sunday, Monday back down to a kind of a scattered variety, area dependent. Again, please watch out for the excessive rainfall and the potential flooding that could come along with that broad disturbance and invest area right over the Yucatan on the northern sides of Central America. Scattered rain chances at best for Jamaica. Again, the Dominican Republic, 30% chance for rain tomorrow. 80 on Sunday, 40 on Monday. Puerto Rico, 30% chance tomorrow. 70 on Sunday, 30 on Monday. There's just this nice axis of tropical moisture that shoots right across these areas on Sunday. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, highest chance on Sunday, a little bit better Sunday, Sunday, a little bit better on Saturday and Monday. Bermuda's rain chances are quite low. Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, solid rain chances, but nothing more than fast-moving showers. Same situation for Antigua and Barbuda. Now you get to Montserrat and Guadeloupe South, you could see some good rain moving in late tomorrow, early on Sunday, all right? 50-60% chance for showers then. It does fall off a bit into the isolated variety on Monday, but these islands here, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, could see some higher rainfall totals. Barbados will have some fast-moving showers for tomorrow, widely scattered on Sunday and Monday. Marine advisories will likely continue. Grenada, TNT, again, not at the axis of the highest rain chances, a little bit lower, but still a pretty good chance there over the weekend. Suriname and Guyana's rain chances are fairly healthy as well. Nueva Esparta, 30, then a 40 on Sunday. And there's your 40% chance for some showers in the ABC Islands over the weekend, then drier again on Monday. Not fantastic for the boaters. I think you would imagine that in the central and the western side of the Caribbean. And again, if anything gets going in the southwest side of the Gulf, you're going to see the elevated sea conditions there. Fresh easterlies slamming back into the lesser Antilles will also again bring at least 2 to 3 meter wave heights. Once this disturbance kind of gets out of the way of the Bahamas, which it's doing so as we speak, we should start to see the seas begin to relax there. So rainfall totals become very interesting here on the European model. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of heavy rainfall here. You're going to see some heavier rainfall here. And then this becomes the next thing to talk about into the early part of July. Look at all of this rain that develops in the north central Gulf, over Florida, and into the western Atlantic and the northern Bahamas. Hit in that for just a slight second. But when we look at the rainfall totals here more in the short term, again, I'm concerned about heavy rain and flooding for portions of Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize. If we take a look, and again, with this, we can literally query the actual numbers over the coming days. So Belize City, I think this is a very good, appropriate number, 4 inches of rain, 100 millimeters. San Ignacio should be a little bit less, but of course we've got higher terrain in inland Belize that can all come down to the lower terrain and cause some quick flash flooding there. Same situation across the Yucatan. Would expect there to be higher totals, Cancun, Cozumel, and then on the back end of this as well, there could be some higher rain. You get a little bit farther inland, 6 inches, 150 millimeters, absolutely possible. Coastal Nicaragua, Honduras, 5 to 6 inches of rain here in these spots. A couple of areas to point out real quickly as well. Back over to Puerto Rico, again, with that next wave coming in, localized flash flooding or flooding in general is a possibility on Sunday with this tropical moisture coming in. So please keep that in mind because we get a few inches of rain in just a very short amount of time. And again, you're going to see those 3-inch totals over portions of the DR as well. And again, scattered rain, but not nearly as bad back into the Bahamas. All right, so back over to the weather computer here and more of the extended forecast. I'm going to take this all the way out to the 4th of July and loop this up. Actually, you know, the next thing I want to do real quickly is show you this on the European model. Forgot, this is the next thing I want to do. This is the European model for Sunday. It does have on the ensemble products one small area of a closed center of circulation. Now, we would probably see more of this, more areas would be a better signal that we would actually get a twist here in a low level center, but it's a possibility, at least in the shorter term. So I just wanted to also show you that the European model picks up on that at least a little bit. Now, back out to what's happening in the broad perspective. Do something here real quick on the back end. Let's focus our attention towards the end of the month and into early July in these areas where the European model was painting on a heck of a lot of rain. This is the GFS model. We're going to get a big troughing development here, northern side of the Gulf, over the peninsula of Florida and into the western Atlantic. This should provide widespread heavier rain. And when you get this troughing potential, you also get the possibility as it sits off of the coastline into the open waters of the Atlantic in that Gulf Stream, very warm temperature water coming up the east coast of the United States, that there could be some twists and some spins and some perturbations along that. So let me show you guys now the GFS model as far as the winds go. All right, now let this loop up here. So first of all, that's all the wind associated with our disturbance right here, but look towards the end of the month, South Florida and into the beginning of July, you're going to start to see a couple little kinks developing there, right? This is just an area that I'm going to be monitoring very closely. South Florida, the northern sides of the Bahamas, from the Nassau area north towards Grand Bahama, and you can see a couple of those little spins. Nothing more than that right now, but certainly as I look at things, I mean, you see that little spot right there? That's what I'm talking about on July 2nd, developing, and this would be a very classic thing that develops either in the eastern Gulf or over the peninsula of Florida, gets into the western Atlantic, and then shoots up the eastern seaboard of the United States because of the Gulf Stream up there. Now, looking at the European model, again, there's your one area over the weekend. As we get towards the beginning of July, right, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, you're going to see the European model has a couple of different areas in that general troughing pattern that we talked about in those spots. That's the next area to monitor here over starting in about a week's time. Friends, I appreciate you guys. Follow us across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, it's myMediaMundo@gmail.com. You have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. While you're down there, thank you for taking a quick second and liking and subscribing. And please remember that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. It is storm season. Storm moves into your area, just like I'm having right now. That's why there was a flash, and you get damaged. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com. I'll obviously keep a very close eye on the situation in the Western Caribbean and over the Yucatan, over the weekend. And, if there's any need to come back on and keep you guys abreast of that situation in a live fashion, I certainly will. Friends, you take care. I'll see you soon with the latest forecast for you right here at Meteo Mundo.